All right, let's talk about T-Mobile. T-Mobile got a fat ass payout though. Look at that fucking average. 13 fucking thousand in the last 3 months. What? I'm like, damn, girl. Let's like go. Let's fight. Let's see what's up there. You know, let's get back to our old tricks. Let's try to run the full Monty. Let's see what we can actually do. I'm gonna try and get as much of this recorded locally, just in case. But interestingly enough, we actually, man, my fucking, God bless my UPS. That's one of the best things I ever got for my CPU setup. We had brief power outage, swept through the whole apartment, the whole building. Really hard wind, cold weather. Just probably briefly, disconnected some cable somewhere, and my computer didn't die at all. It was fucking great. Super great feeling, to have a running process, that you're dependent upon or you're currently involved in, and for some disrupting factor to come through and that process be totally undisturbed. It's a beautiful thing. Absolutely wonderful. Encourage more people to do this in their own computer setups. It's probably one of the more undersold and underdiscussed parts of a AI cluster, right? Clusters have really been a topic even long before LLMs and agents, right? It's just kind of really interesting that it's become more accessible, the concept of cluster computing. It's more accessible to the layman, right? But I also feel at the same time probably a lot of people just have way too much power that they're not fully utilizing, because I have yet to hit the limits with the codex, and I'm actually gonna try to hit the limits and see what we could do. But I also don't want to hit the limits shitting out slop, right? If I'm gonna use it, it's gotta be useful. Makes sense, right? You just don't use a thing for no reason. You don't build stuff that you don't necessarily want or need. So I have to think of something that I actually want or need, didn't build it, right? I want this motherfucking money. That's what I really want. I want that T-Mobile. They've already rewarded a lot of vulns, but this is similar scope to because this is a public program, right? Totally anybody can fuck around and find out with this place. Late code, yeah? Hell yeah. Awful security. That's right. So they're paying out some big ass money. But the trick is that for their most of their assets, they're only paying P1 and P2. So whatever you find's got to be pretty high up there. They also said something about subdomain takeovers. A static reward of $1,500 will be rewarded for subdomain takeover issues. They'll be classified as P3. But still, $1,500 ain't nothing to shake a stick at, right? Like that's my rant right there. That's absolutely valid, useful, and desirable. So let's talk bug bounty, right? There's a lot of different levels to this shit, right? Like, no pun intended, just fact of life. At a top level, you've got your scope. These are all the different assets that you're allowed to hack on, right? It's like, hey, we're T-Mobile. We'll pay you some shit if you find some shit on one of these things. And some of these hosts are concrete. It's like, account.tmobile.com. It's like, hey, here's one host. You find some shit on this server, we'll give you money for it. Metro by T-Mobile, same deal. Sprint.com, I didn't even know that Sprint and T-Mobile were fucking associated. My grandpa was a big fan of T-Mobile. Rest in peace. The first time I ever talked to T-Mobile, I had a terrible customer experience. I decided not to fuck with them anymore. My grandpa ended up being a customer of them for over 15 years, though. So, for the things that I agree with Grandpa on, and I looked up to him, and still look up to him on, maybe we'll have to see how I feel about T-Mobile, right? It all depends, because on one hand, it's like, oh, shit. On the other hand, it's like, oh, shit. So, the interesting ones for me, and I don't know why I'm so interested, because it hasn't led to me getting any money for it directly. But I'm always really just kind of stuck in this mode of enumerating subdomains. By that I mean, it's like, say you've got a wildcard, like star.api.tmobile.com. That means any word or any possible subdomain. So like maybe server.api.tmobile.com or www.api.tmobile.com. I'm just making stuff up, right? Like not necessarily underneath the hood does there exist hosts with those names, but it is a possibility. So to find these hosts, how you do that, right? So I actually need to update my scopes file, but here's what we do. So I've already got this folder. This folder be like, damn girl, what's up? No, for low. Cat root domains. So all of these are domains that in the scope have an asterisk in front of them. So I haven't actually finished updating the scope. So what we'll do is, I'll do my best here. So sed s or actually front of line slash no star dot slash and then root domains. Okay, so we start by doing that, right? And we're gonna write that out in a new file called scope.txt. Now we got this file, right? And this is just useful for logging and keeping track locally what your targets are, what you're actually attacking. So some of the things that I had not yet written down or like taken into account, because oftentimes I like to glob my processes together, and because you end up having to distinguish between targets that may or may not have the asterisk in front of their scope. So for instance, if we wanted to separate them out, we could make a file called scope wildcards, because those are the ones that we know you can enumerate anything on. But for the ones that don't have that, we got account.tmobile.com, metro by dash T-Mobile. No, metro by T dash mobile.com, sprint.com, T-Mobile.com, tfb.tmobile.com, dev edge.tmobile.com, test.service-now.com, digits.tmobile.com, api.vistarmedia.com, packages.cortexpowered.com, api.vistarmedia.eu, production-dynam-creative.vistarmedia.com, storybook.vistarmedia.com, creatives.vistarmedia.com, sflower.cortexpower.com, production, holy god, I'm not going to read all those. Here's what we'll do. We're going to copy all of those. We're just going to paste them like, oh snap, nice. Okay. That was a win. I wasn't expecting it to omit the bullet points. That was actually a huge win. Fucking awesome. Okay. So apparently there's that, and then didn't we already write some of those down? Yeah, we actually wrote a lot of these down already. Dashboard101.moengage.com, and then Assurance Wireless, and then Demo Adstruct, static rewards. Yeah, we found that. We're not doing mobile targets. Mobile analysis, it's its own kind of monster. Ask me how I know. Anyway, let me check the chat before I continue. Nobody's really talking. Okay. Hope everyone's having a good night. If you'd like to support the dojo, give us a like and a subscribe. We'll start there. It's our first date after all. So in the process of figuring out scope and figuring out like what is it that you actually want to work on and how many different possible subdomains can you actually acquire and spend time actually hunting for, because subdomain enumeration is its own rabbit hole. Even for one asterisk, such as api.tmobile.com, you could potentially spend eternity trying different subdomain combinations in order to find some hidden weird DNS name label that may or may not exist. Could also be something that's only available internally, so you wouldn't be able to access it from the outside. Maybe it's something that responds only on their DNS. So it is kind of a delicate balance as to say when do you actually start digging deeper. And that was one of the topics I'm trying to talk about, because it's also one of the things that I personally struggle with as a hacker and a security researcher. My brain tends naturally want to kind of lean sideways. Very enumeration focused. I'm very scrape through every possible layer of the top layer first before going down to the next layer. And as a result, this takes a very long time to actually go deep. Something I'm trying to kind of overcome and fix. Because I feel like I have the tenacity and the energy and knowledge base. It's something about my process is off. And anyone who's got info or perception on insight in this, to someone who's a fellow hacker and wants to sharpen the swords of another fellow hacker, reach out to me on X or give me a message in the chat or leave a comment on the stream. Much appreciated. Always looking to improve my skills, and I'm constantly trying to study when I'm able to. That said, there have been things that have gotten me into the top 1% on BugCrowd. That said, every day my rank slips, and I gotta do something in order to actually not only increase and improve my station, but also to pay my motherfucking rent. I do want to make that super good cash off of this kind of thing. I believe it to be, and if the stories are true, if, all that stuff out there is not just empty posturing, and I don't believe it is. I believe that people out there actually getting paid for some big ass shit. We just gotta figure out where to begin and how far to go before we actually move on to the next step. Or if we just want to pick one direction and run in that direction, inevitably we'll either find something or we will eventually realize that there is nothing to find. At a certain point, how do you figure that out too? This is also a problem. You could say, you could start with account.tmobile.com. Sure. But for demonstration purposes and for interest in attempting to kind of scrape the outer layers for the obvious weaknesses that other people just haven't caught. Because while authentication-based vulnerabilities that require you to actually log in, tamper with cookies, things like this, we'll certainly have to get to that point at a certain point. And I've certainly had to do this in order to overcome certain web application firewalls. How do we get started here? The core assets have the highest payout. And if we wanted to focus our efforts on an interesting endpoint or an interesting subdomain, star.api.tmobile.com. So even in our first pass that I already have actually ran, which was on a rather small subset of T-Mobile domains, and what we're going to do to start is actually do another domain pass. This will buy us some time so that I can actually, move on to like some game dev for a little bit. All right, so how do we generate possible subdomains? So let's say we were looking for api.tmobile.com subdomains. And we had this word list in the sec lists discovery DNS subdomains top 1,005,000.txt. Say we ran a command called sed in order to join the lines of that file and then put it into another file called possible domains.txt. Better yet, what if we did like, instead of 5,000, maybe we did a bigger one, because the bigger the number, obviously the longer it takes to actually resolve everything. A 2 million run took me over 10 hours. Reason being, one, I'm on a VPN, and the way that ZDNS works, I don't think it directly queries through, because oftentimes DNS operations do not work on VPN. But I'll show you what I mean. So targeting just api.tmobile.com, So we just generated a file with 19966 possible domains. So that gives you an idea of what that looks like. All right, we're literally throwing guesses, large numbers of guesses. And naturally, the more guesses, the longer it takes. So these word lists have been created in order to help optimize for time. You know, it's like, you know, generally speaking, there's efforts to collect things that are seen as the most common or things that have actually been out there. So we just got almost 20,000 that we're going to run. So we're going to fire off four threads with our possible subdomains using ZDNS. You can't see the full command. Hold on. There you go. Maybe we should hang out for a minute until we see the first no error. It would be curious. Wonder if we get one no error before we hit 1,000 names tried. And if using this particular word list doesn't yield anything useful, then we can take the names that came back in our domains up that we probably pulled from our subfinder run in order to create our own custom word list that we can fuzz with. That's something that we could actually use AI to enhance the process for. But once we have generated sufficient subdomains to take a look at, then we would move on to another step of the process, such as using a tool like get all URLs, which we may or may not have already run on those particular subdomains, and then take a look at see what URLs got returned from those endpoints. In addition to that, obviously we can hit the URLs themselves, take a look at what actually comes back, starting from the root path, actually visit, you know, the browser in a browser and let it load up whatever assets or JavaScripts that it needs to call or run as an application. Interesting, we got some timeouts. It's possible we don't get very many back for this particular set. At the same time as all of this is going on, I've also got AFL++ running in a separate window over here. Four instances, in fact. I'm fuzzing a program called JQ. So far, we have not found anything, even though this one is run 12.9 million times. This one is run 13.4 million times. This one is run 12.8 million. And this one is run 13.1 million. So basically we're trying to beat the ever-loving hell out of the program. And even then, if I wanted to, I could like run a ton of other instances, but at the end of the day, I'm also kind of just doing this for practice. There's no bug bounty for JQ fuzzing or anything like that, but there is bug bounty stuff for browser stuff. The setup is a lot more complicated, and the documentation is a lot more unclear. There isn't as direct of a path for doing that kind of thing, as much as I would be interested in doing it, and I have the hardware to participate. It would be interesting and fun and cool to get a crash. I don't know how long I'd have to run it, but as you can see, all 4 instances have almost been running a full day now. They've actually all changed their strategies from explore to exploit now. They've all run out of pending and pinned favorites. They all have very large corpuses. The one in the top left has completed many more cycles. They're all at very different levels in the item geometry. Each of them have different numbers of favorite items and new edges, total timeouts. Cycles done. So it's an interesting, beautiful thing to watch. You know, setting up the whole like I find the whole process of instrumenting very fascinating and curious. You know, it's like in the best case it's straightforward and easy. And generally speaking, you know, like there's some rules of thumb that you want to kind of follow when you're actually setting these things up. One of the things that AFL++ shows in their documentation is like, at all costs, do not instrument a shared library. Always compile static library. And then using that instrumented static library, if there's some sort of specific function that you want to fuzz, you can write like a separate program that uses the instrumented version of that library. Just thinking out loud here. Yeah. Hacking takes a very long time. No matter how it is you do it. I've gotten super lucky before, and getting that lucky can really poison your thought process. It can really betray the amount of real effort that goes into actually doing things in a way where you find things consistently. Because the momentum that they talk about when doing this kind of thing is about like asset acquisition, right? By asset acquisition, I mean there's a number of things here. I'm gonna get into another terminal here. So asset acquisition, right? Like domains up is a list of domains that I've already hit at least once, and I know that they're alive. They came originally from, I believe, HTTPX 0. Yeah. So HTTPX 0 and domains up 0, both of these files correlate to each other. I have this command called get domains up. It's basically like a simple grep or a simple like sed type command that strips out like basically if you take a look at HTTPX 0, it's the results of the HTTPX command that came back for a set of input subdomains that I tried to see if they were alive or not. And what we get back is a list of response codes. We get I forget what the second value is. I think this might be like the size of the response. Yeah, it's size of the response. And then we got like the site title. So like T-Mobile official site. That makes sense because that's T-Mobile.com, right? So it also got its IP address. We got line count, maybe character count, or something else. No, like word count, line count and word count. And then these are all the technologies that are used on the page. So we've got a bunch of stuff that we got back already, and I use that to generate links. Links is a folder where every file in this folder, the name of the file is a subdomain that's already been checked and it's alive, right? So what you do is, for every one of those subdomains, you got this program called gal. So gal is stands for get all URLs, and it hits a handful of different resources. I shouldn't say a lot, but Wayback URLs is one of them. I forget what the other ones are. Common Crawl, OTX, and URL Scan. But this usually gives a starting point, right? Without ever actually touching the website besides the check to see if it's alive or not. You've already got like something to work with. So if we were to take a look at api.tmobile.com, we've got a bunch of stuff. Some of it comes directly from api.tmobile.com. And then some of it comes from subdomains. So this is interesting, right? So it's not like that's many lines, right? But it's a starting point, and it's an interesting starting point. You see a lot of different, really curious pieces of content that you might want to visit in a browser, perhaps, right? Even then, 491 lines. That's a lot of lines. What if we actually automate that and then actually kind of flip through the results? So let's talk about burp suites. Dude, I haven't even gotten to slop yet. We'll talk about slop. Alright, so let's talk about burp. Where's my burp window? Hold on, I gotta move it over in OBS. Alright, there's the burps. Right. Just use curl. No, motherfucker. We on that HTTPX though. Like, I don't even write Go, but HTTPX is fucking fire. Not to mention, and as goated as curl is, one, it's not multi-threaded. So, you know, if you want to do multi-threaded curl stuff, you kind of have to like write your own shit, which I've done. That ain't a problem. All right. Like, I'm just saying, URL lib, dude, that's so old school. Come on. If I'm doing Python, I'm doing requests, either requests or like HTTPX, and hell, even async. You could use AIO HTTP, my dude. Like, there's so many different options. How you gonna? I like that though. My guy knows. My guy knows how to make requests. Respect. All right. Word. Okay. All right. Back over to over here. We're gonna clear everything that we got open here. Burp is already throttling me. First of all, no, it's not. And secondly, I'm not even using it for the scanning purposes. All right. The community edition still has a lot of utility though, especially with regards to the repeater, in my opinion, especially for like manual inspection of requests. It's still pretty good. I've had problems with Kaido recently, and you could easily say skill issue, but it's totally not a skill issue. It's more like a Kaido may or may not be all that great on Linux issue. Work pays for my pro edition. Yeah, I've had a place pay for my pro burp before as well. All right, so we're going to get rid of all those URLs. All right, so we're starting fresh, right? We're gonna start from brand new, because I like looking at this shit from the new. It sounds weird. The new. All right, so let's tab away from burp for a moment, and we're gonna do some. Why I feel like it's useful, right? You could do everything in the command line, sure. I used to think the same thing, and I also largely still feel this way. Let's say we're targeting just the things that we've seen in the API.tmobile.com file, right? So I got this alias for HTTPX that I call my HTTPX, and it's basically just HTTPX with a bunch of flags already set. I'm really lazy, and over the last 20 years of Linux usage, one of my biggest fetishes is figuring out like the best flags to run a command with, and then aliasing that to my bash RC or ZSH RC as it's been over the last few years. I say that because even historically, people will put in documentation full flags as needed for particular solutions to problems that someone might have when working with a piece of software. But especially for like common operations, it's so useful to like just alias something, especially something that you do like, you know, often. My cat just came down from his tower. All right, before I end up having to take my dog outside, all right, so we're gonna run all those items one item at a time. It'll take under 10 minutes. We're gonna add a couple headers. These headers are just kind of like annoying to actually get correct in the alias. They may not even necessarily be needed, but we're gonna have them anyway. Stats. Oh, wait. Proxy. All right, so we're gonna pipe this result through the burp suite, and we're gonna watch it run as this command runs. So as soon as I hit enter, I'm going to flip on the burp browser again, or rather the burp window. All right. So one of the options I like to turn off is hiding not found items. Now we can actually see everything that's come down. Oh wait, and also 404 requests. There we go. So you actually see everything that's come down, like whether or not like it, you know, it's the reason being is that, you know, we might actually want to take a look at a particular endpoint. Some of these endpoints are being referred to by some other thing. LCAT, what? Let's see. So for instance, if we wanted to take a look at only the 200s to start with, we don't even care about this, and we don't care about this. So we're going to get rid of those. So to api.tmobile.com. Now for some reason this should have a response, but we don't see anything. There we go. Okay. This is why I like burp. Because now I can just arrow down through stuff. And we can actually browse on kind of like a big scale. So one of the things that's interesting to kind of do is take a look at 400s. 403s and 404s. Kind of like what they come back with. It's like, where are they hosted? Why are they hosted there? Even the favicon request was denied. That's, talk about getting cock blocked. So internal server errors are interesting because this points to some sort of heavier hitting kind of situation going on there. You know, it's like very curious. You know, like the places I've seen these kinds of things where it's really interesting to kind of poke and prod is usually when you throw some sort of malformed payload into a variable and you manage to like get the server to 500 or something like that, right? And it's like, oh, I wonder what's going on there. So in this case, we got two different endpoints, casi.api.tmobile.com, whose root endpoint returns server 500, internal server error. And it shows nothing particularly interesting in the headers that it returns. Looks like it's it's behind the Akamai firewall. It's based off the cookie. And qato3.api.tmobile.com returns 502 bad gateway. It also sets a similar Akamai cookie. It's funny that it's got this many padding messages, right? That's kind of interesting. So based off the patterns that I'm seeing for some of these, generic bootstrapping architecture. Whoa. That's weird. Generic bootstrapping architecture. 3GPPTS 33200 support is required to access the requested resource. So this is for the URL or the subdomain apxdm.sipgeo .tmobile.com. SIPGEO. It might be I don't know if we should dig deeper into that one, but that's curious. Yeah, we're doing a little bug bounty action right now. Just attempting to kind of dig deeper before we do any sort of game dev or anything like that. Probably have to take my dog out to pee-pee here in a little bit. But I'm drinking some pretty powerful caffeine stuff, so... Did any of them actually... Nothing actually has come back 200. Yeah, these are, well, I mean, as public can get. Yeah. It's all part of Bug Crowd. Okay, so it looks like our quests over here finished out. Now, something that we're able to do here is just kind of post some arbitrary data and see if there's any sort of differing type of response, and continue to pipe it through our setup over here. So we can actually watch the requests fly by in our proxy window right here and take a look at any response codes that we get back. Unfortunately, we have not hit any 200s, but I figure by swapping things up and attempting posts, perhaps we can get something. At the same time, we also have the ability to fuzz each individual host in the hopes of actually finding something. But at the same time, did we actually fire off ZTNS? It's probably done by now. Yeah, sure enough, it's finished. So we actually only got 2 no errors. Wow. So out of 20,000 subdomains, we only got 2 no errors. So we managed to find 2 new ones right there. So I have an idea. So remember with our potentials, possible subdomains, we threw a word list at it that had 20,000 for API.tmobile, right? So remember the patterns that we've seen so far. like I was saying earlier, perhaps maybe it's time to actually throw some custom stuff at it. Ooh, that's a lot of lines. Before we actually do that, what are some of the patterns? CASI, NPE, PAPI, QAT01. So it looks like it's going up to 5 characters. So we could do 3 and 4 characters very easily, right? I'm going to assume no dashes, no underscores. But if we wanted to fire through every possible combination, maybe starting from 3. Well, we could include 1 and 2, and it's pretty easy to fuzz those. The cat just plopped on my desk. That's still a lot of lines. It's 1 million. Oh wait, just naming it 3 doesn't make it actually 3. So if we wanted to break it up, say do all the combinations of 1 first and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. And then 5 would be huge. So I'd probably want to allocate some separate space for that one. Because like even just thinking about it, it's like, how many, would it be? 300 fucking megabytes. Jesus Christ. So that would be 52 million different possible combinations of just 5 characters, because we're like literally trying to brute force possible subdomains. So knowing that, still okay. We're not going to do 5 here. Maybe I'll do 5 later. Well, let's say we wanted to combine 1, 2, and 3 together, right? So instead of using something from our sec list, we're going to use our crunch file that we just created. So it's going to iterate through all of the possible combinations starting from A and all the way to 9999. There's 44,000 of those combinations. So this might take a while. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and fire off these HTTPXs. We can try to move on to some game dev now that it's after midnight. I forgot I also got bread, so I can actually have some toast with jelly in a little bit. Maybe also make some more coffee. Alright, so over in the burp window, for the love of God, Nana, that's the last thing I need right now. Alright, so we've got a DNS scan running right now, attempting to look for any other subdomains that might hit on api.tmobile.com. At the same time, we're running a list of publicly found URLs through HTTPX and curl, or rather Burp Suite, and just logging what gets returned. See, we got something interesting already. We got a 404 instead of a 403 somewhere. Already, that's kind of like an interesting, like, for all of the responses, and then this to like hit in the middle. That's very weird and interesting, right? So, I was talking earlier about ways that we could kind of go beyond, right? And so a lot of these are coming back for api.tmobile. So actually taking a look at the things that were 404ing. Would be kind of interesting. Because we don't have very many things that are 404. We've got some endpoints in OAuth 2. And in some cases, one of them doesn't return strict transport security. I don't think that's really going to help us too much. But so it's kind of interesting though that, we have so many endpoints. We got a lot of 403s, but then a handful of 404s. That's already kind of curious, right? And, the driving force for a hacker, I feel like, should be curiosity. We're supposed to be cat-like, right? Hackers. Some people are more dog-like than cat-like. I'm not sure that I have dog in me so much as a cat, but, I do like dogs. They do require a different level of effort. My baby girl's different, though. And we're about to go do some business. We still got a lot to do here, and I've got some music that I'm going to play for y'all. I also built a really cool, a segue thing that I should show y'all in a little bit. It's really fun. It's like a star field. It also will track how long I've been away from the computer. Because at the end of the day, the kind of work and the kind of things that I like to do are very time intensive. They require a lot of being at the machine and guiding processes forward in general. And so, I wanted to make it a show for a long time to, educationally demonstrate a lot of these processes. Been using computers for a very long time. It's not like, the kids get good so fast, you know what I mean? I've been doing this a long time. Kids pick up things a lot faster because they're not as ingrained in old people ways, That said, though, people in tech in general, while we're in it for life in terms of the inevitable fact of having to keep up with current technology, certain things end up universal. Certain things end up always true. The basics never change. And as a programming tutor and computer science, assistant, you could say, I've kind of made a living off of this fact. So, if you have any questions about programming or computers, it varies because my audience is kind of a mix. I've got like people in the crowd who are probably better than I am, who you should be paying instead of me. I've also got people who are probably about even skill level with me. They've probably been in the game as long as I have. And then you got some people who are kind of new. Maybe they're techno curious. Maybe they're thinking about getting their hands a little bit deeper into computers. Maybe they just, they got cold feet for one reason or another. All right, it looks like the burp suite, not the burp suite, the HTTPX finished. And one of the things I found interesting is the existence of this 404 on some of the endpoints. Because for all the responses that we do get, first of all, how are we going to get a bad gateway on robots.txt? Then the things that we do get 404 on are kind of interesting. QAT03 NPE core.saas, and then the regular API endpoint. The response is very similar between all of them. But the fact that there was a URL like this in the list suggests that at some point this might have been a valid endpoint. Unfortunately, through that run, we didn't get anything immediately perceptible as having a lot of utility. But internal server error is interesting. .401 unauthorized. And also all the 404s are basically empty. So there might be protections in place that would only be accessible from, like, for instance, an authenticated logged in account. So perhaps, if we were to try and be doing he's having a laugh, my dude. You'll have to forgive this this LARPer, this troll in my chat. Someone's got to secure your infrastructure from the Chinese and the Russians. All right? I'm an American hacker. You can't stop me from hacking. It's my God-given right. It's my freedom of speech. All right? Fuck around and find out with these computers. You can't stop me. God can't stop me. Knock on wood. But if God is my witness and America is God, about God and country, God, man, and whatever, then God gave me the right to hack. And I demand justice. Securing my future and your future, the internet, one fucking reflected cross-site scripting attack at a time. Shout outs to all my current viewers. I hope everyone's having a good Monday night, Tuesday morning, whatever time of day it is where you at. This may not have been the best. Let's see. So I was hoping to get better response than we got here, right? Like if we were if we wanted to clean this up again and do another run. Delete set collected items. It's very easy to just wipe the history, start from scratch. So, not to mention when you're doing it from the command line, you see how it says like burp suite everywhere? It's like because there's like the whole way that like burp is able to do what it does is through an SSL kind of swap out. It allows it to kind of like decrypt HTTPS packages. Yeah, that's it. So it's an interesting thing, right? Like we didn't go deeply enough, did we? But seeing something like this 404 right here, right? If we were to just curl that, nothing comes back. It comes back 404. Nothing there. What about the root endpoint? 502 bad gateway. That's very curious, right? Why would the root endpoint come back bad gateway, but this come back with 404? What about this endpoint? Also 404. What about this endpoint? Also 404. And of course this endpoint. Yes, show everybody your butthole. Show everybody your butthole. Oh, buddy. He's purring very loudly right now. So why would the root endpoint 502, but everything else is coming back? Well, actually, no. It's not strictly everything. But the OAuth 2 endpoint if you visit it at the folder level, returns 404. And so it's a question of, is that, like, is the 502, so the 502 is coming back from Nginx. Whereas note that, I find this interesting, right? So for OAuth, like the endpoint OAuth 2, it sets the cookie for Akamai. But when you add the slash in, it doesn't set the cookie. And it actually just returns 404. Had to actually chase my cat off my computer. He's a butthead like that. Yes, you are. You are a butthead. Get over here. This motherfucker. Hey Dad, I hope someone helps us pay the rent real soon. And nobody. We need more money so I can buy him more snacks. Alright, what's next? You better not jump on my computer. Distracting motherfucker, dude. I'm watching you. Alright, look. Let's see. Dude, I'm telling you, you better not do that anymore. I can't take it. Yeah, I know. But alright, so I think we should actually pivot away from the API endpoint for the reasons I said earlier. Deeper access probably does require authentication. There's probably really not a whole lot that we're going to really find attempting to fuzz it from an unauthenticated perspective. In exploring other parts of the site, we might find something interesting. While we're in this folder, since we are running a fresh run through burp, let's run a grep on this directory for all endpoints. Like this. Actually, better yet, I already ran a thing on reflections. So in the reflections folder, so things in the reflection folder, I have ran from our public gal resources. See my cat in the background. So we got this magic string that's D333V. It's pretty unique. Chances are you're probably not going to encounter it in some randomly generated context very easily. I haven't seen it very often. So I use it because it's pretty short also. So you can grep it real easily. And if you fire such payload through a URL, and you get a response back that reflects the parameter that you passed in. And by reflects, I mean is returned in the page response or in the headers for a response. Then this warrants further examination. Because in the simplest of cases, this could lead to a cross-site scripting. URL-based, reflected, very straightforward. Not very common anymore, but also rather low effort and kind of easy to check for. What you would do with such a thing just depends, but having one of these in your inventory for something else that might be able to capitalize upon such a reflected cross-site scripting that you find, you know, it is what it is. It's something that you can actually do. I actually managed to get paid $750 off of a reflected cross-site scripting attack. It was actually something in the refer, and that's something that I could continue to test for here, using the publicly available resources, as well as attempting to leverage Katana, which I have not even gotten to yet. Katana is a very awesome resource for automating browsing, and so probably something that we're going to also want to look at. HTTPX is a good start, but to really help leverage fully loading the JavaScript from a page, loading all of the different assets and resources that might come with that, we're going to want to use Katana. So you see from our T-Mobile scan for DNS, off the 45,000 combinations or so for 3-character combinations, so far we have found 2, and we've tried about maybe almost half of them in about 30 minutes. So you see, trying millions might take days. You know, you're looking at very long scan times depending upon your network resources. It's one reason it's usually advised to do this kind of work from a VPS, virtual private server, or some other place where you can really fire off lots of network requests in a short amount of time. My cat is in the bathroom being a terrorist. Okay. Let's see. Our burp window. It's empty. So what are we going to fire off at, right? So let's say we move on to another scope. We would have to perform similar checks for each one of the asterisk-based domains. And so you can see subdomain hunting alone compounds in the amount of time that it takes to actually find some shit. So using the publicly available links in the reflected folder that I found, what if we were to take these and fire them through HTTPX? But first, how many links is this? All right, so we're looking at 50,000 actually. That would take us a long time, doing it only one at a time. Right, so when I run this, or I try and run it at a reasonably fast rate without it like borking on itself, over here on our burp suite window, before I go and run that command, I wish my cat wouldn't attack the computer the way he does. It really causes me a lot of stress. Alright, we're going to go and run that command now. There's something I forgot to do here. So, something interesting to note too. es.support. Oh, that's why it was responding. So realistically, we don't even care about that. Like, ideally, we come back with stuff that's, because like it could be matching the reflection in the 301 itself and not like the actual endpoint. So as an example of that, see, a lot of that's coming back with 301s. So we would do an anti-grep on 301, and nothing isn't a 301 for that particular for that particular host. So we might actually consider omitting that host. So to omit that host, everything we get back is pretty clean. Localhost. All right, let's just start with that. All right, so back over in burp. You're getting lots of 302s back. Some 200s. And nothing interesting there yet. So maybe we omit, maybe we continue omitting a few of these. Oops, y'all can't see that. My bad. Damn, still quite a few URLs. Stop it, Nano. 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 Stop it. Please stop it. Get away. Shoot. Motherfucker trying to rip cables out of my goddamn monitor. In the middle of me trying to do some shit. Y'all seen it. I got witnesses. Nope. Stop it. Stop it. Stop trying to go over there. He just wants me to put my hands on him. My hands are busy, buddy. I only got one good hand I can work with. The other one's lucky it can do anything at all, man. What I like to do is, you can't see it, but capture a request by intercepting it. Now we've got the request over here in the repeater tab, and I like repeater a lot. This is really one of the better reasons why I like burp. Repeater works really well. You can just snap something from the proxy, load it up into this completely separate tab, fire it off, and modify the request too. So this actually came back with the 200. What's actually on this page? Good question. Lots of stuff on this page. Now this actually gives me an idea. And I see something interesting down here too. We got this JavaScript X file included as a script source. Now there's probably a lot of different assets on this page to examine. To fuck around and find out. We're gonna go ahead and copy the HTML that was returned there. Motherfucker. Actually, we're going to do both the request and the response. I have an idea. So we just picked a random endpoint, right? Now we're going to make a folder called so there's our request. There's our response. Realistically, not that bad in terms of size, right? 419 lines, it's really nothing for Codex. where is that vulnerability taxonomy? Yeah, this thing. Oh, okay, so SQLi is actually SQL injection's actually P1. Yeah, no, please stop. No, stop. Motherfucker. One in the morning. Damn, time is flying, huh? Stop. All right. Please stop. We're so distracting. Stop it. Jesus Christ. All right, time to use AI in the process of analyzing this HTML file. We got this 400 line HTML file that's got a bunch of different stuff in it. Now I could go through it myself, and we're going to right now. There's a lot of JavaScript variable setting. A lot of endpoints I can see. And one thing that we can do let's see if we can't give it some authority. Here, let's go and update. Wait, I think I actually need a custom command when I run codecs. Okay, so okay, so it says I need to update. So we're actually I'm gonna fix that. Apparently, codecs okay, so in codec/config sandbox workspace right. All right, so we could actually try that again. Interesting. So we got it actually running network requests now. That is a little bit scary. But it's an important part of the automation process. Like, it's doing a lot of stuff way faster now than I would be able to do myself. But by channeling our focus on just one request and response, maybe we can derive some novel insight doing this. Similarly, if we fire a bunch of other resources off at our endpoints, maybe even then we can throw some additional tools, such as our project discovery suite, into the plan and help it get some more info this way. Defensible nothing burger. Fuck. Okay. So the AI says that there's nothing here, so God damn it. All right. Well, AI says there's nothing here, so let's we got nothing there at the moment. Okay, so we only got 2 domains. OP and NPE. No. Could not resolve. Maybe that's an internal endpoint. see. Butthole. Butthole. I gotta get the baby up here in a minute. She's been asleep for too long. She's about to blow up everything. It'd be a good time to take a little break here. Wait a second. Damn. I'm going to strip all that content out of the request. And it's still good. So this is bare minimum request for making a download request from the bulk download service API that's available at security.tmobile.com at API status page share, and then this big long ID, and then public bulk download. And so this is a starting point, right? This is another jumping off point. This, you know, we get a valid thing back, and it comes back with big URL showing. My God, my cat! I'm gonna lose my cool here, buddy. Come here. I don't want to lose my cool. Not to mention, I gotta get the baby up and do some business because we got something potential here. This is just the beginning, but the immediate thought that I would have here is maybe throwing different file UIDs and IDs at it, throwing this at throwing this at nuclei, and also throwing it at SQL map. Naturally, there's probably some Cloudflare bullshit in the way, but the fact that we're able to strip off as much stuff as I was able to do just there, it's a good sign. It'd be interesting to find the other API thingies, but also, like, one thing that we could do is fire or we're gonna uncheck intercept so we can see what actually came back here. Because for that request, we have a few different places that we can potentially fuzz. I mean, there's not only like the whole path, like there's everything in here, but this UUID or this UID, whatever, sitting in the middle of the post, being some sort of resource ID. Going into some query somewhere, right? And be injected. So what happens if we tamper with that, right? What if we add some 666 action? Not found. Organization not found. API error. What if we just did one off? So it's not coming back with anything on those, right? But the fact that we have something that it does come back valid for means that, for instance, if this is being passed into something that's doing some sort of SQL, then we'd be able to test for successful injections, because There's virtually no protections on this. We're not, I mean, so long as we like throttle our requests and hopefully we don't get blocked along the way. If we do get blocked, of course, we just swap to a new VPN, but anyone still watching this thing? It's getting late. When I get these bugs, we gotta hit this shit, man. Alright, so what if we change up the UUID? Interesting. Did it not care at all? Okay, that gives me a bad request, so that's interesting. Okay, so it does not care. I felt a little bit of a lag there. Okay, that's a bad request. Okay, interesting. So the last digits there. Very interesting. The last digits don't matter. Okay, the last digit there didn't matter. The last digit there didn't matter. The last digit there didn't matter. Bad request. Okay, so the 8 works. Then the 7 does not work. 5. The 4, the 3, the 2, the 1. Alright, so the 9 and the 8 worked. But you see what I'm doing here? I'm tampering with this because it seems that not necessarily every character has meaning. I've encountered a bug like this before, or I don't know if you can call it a bug. It's just the way that something is implemented. Whoa. So it seems like actually we're able to do something with this kind of thing. Because not every like I almost was able to change every single digit to 6 except for like 2 of them. And I just find that like alone kind of interesting. But similarly, what happens if we change the values on the bottom? Similar kind of situation. See that? It's kind of interesting, right? And you gotta be a little bit curious. What's up with that? Do we have a product ID besides defaults? No. Does the characters of this path matter? Yes. All right, I've really delayed taking my dog out to pee. But we want to copy this over before we forget about it. Save it for analysis. So this is the kind of thing that I'll probably end up firing off against SQL map, right? So, for instance, All right, so we got this scan post command. I forget, there's a... Yeah, there's JSON in there. So may not necessarily want a URL in code. And we also might want to consider marking a custom injection site. I think what we want for that actually is char Unicode escape. And honestly, I think they're right. I think based off of the request itself, right? We were able to like just zero out a lot of that stuff. It just doesn't even matter. So we may not even be injecting necessarily anything over there. However, tampering with the path, because I have actually found, believe it or not, SQL injections off the get query. It's actually how I ended up in the top 1%. So doing that, char encode. Did we not save that? No, we did put an asterisk there. We do not want to process the JSON here. We do want to process the custom injection marker. Okay, here we go. We probably won't get shit at first off of this. Got nothing over here. What are some other ones? Do I have Argent installed? All right, very good. I gotta take my baby out before she has an accident. It'd be a good time to test out this thing. Check this out. let's see. So that works out pretty well. But as it turns out, the endpoint that I fired at the AI, also this bulk download doesn't seem like it'll necessarily lead to anything interesting or useful. So we could just say that we have burned a few hours without really anything to show for it, unfortunately. Sometimes that's how it goes in the bug bounty space. That's why it's not sometimes the best. Nano, you better not be fucking with my dog. Sometimes bug bounty won't necessarily lead to an immediate payout right away. Sometimes you have to drill deeper. It's not always going to work out that you run in one direction and you find anything within a, even a 3-hour time window. But it is almost 2:30 in the morning, so this probably should be where I call it a break, time for break. Put the human down to sleep. Get back at the world tomorrow. Whatever that means. Sigh. I think honestly, for streaming purposes, Gamedev is a lot more fun, isn't it? That's how I feel about it. There's a lot more potential money in bug bounty in general. But the reality of the situation is you have to have a lot of time on your hands. It's not guaranteed that you'll find anything. And you got to be patient. What I need are guarantees, things that don't take a lot of time, and don't require as much patience. If I want to maximize my ability to succeed in this tech game, I mean, I definitely got to temper my patience, but I also have some very real, immediate, short-term problems that need to be solved. That's just the reality of the situation. That's just the facts. And we're going to do what we can and try and fix as many of those problems as possible in as quick and as short of a time frame as possible. But we're not going to be able to fix those problems tonight or right now or here. So I might as well take a little bit of a break. Get my mind fresh. Get back at this thing tomorrow. Or later today, I should say. I almost hit 300 views tonight. It's pretty good. I want to thank everyone who has shown up. We got a lot of likes. So people are definitely liking seeing me sit down and try to hack stuff, which is cool. And I think it would be interesting to create a show or a stream where we get something as automated as possible kind of running. Unfortunately, nothing is coming back from uh-oh. My dog fell on the ground. She don't like me staying on the computer for as long as I do. So, if any of y'all can help us out, we need all the help we can get. So, if you like what the dojo's doing, if you like me, if you like my critters, Nano, I'm watching you. Nano, I'm watching you. You better not fuck with my dog. If y'all like me, if you like my critters, Nano and Gracie, if you want to... Jesus Christ. If y'all want to see us succeed, y'all want to see us hang in there, consider liking, subscribing, maybe even throwing some money towards the game that I didn't get a chance to stream at all tonight. A friend of mine on X asked, why not both when it comes to hacking and game development? Well, it's because you literally spend all day doing one and never get around to the other. So you have to pick. Like, it's just, you know, there's certain things that you have to do. You can't split your attention in such a way on two giant projects and then ever expect to actually make any concrete work done. Even with the power of AI at my fingertips, you still have to drive the energy in one direction or the other. At the end of the day, it's all programming and computers for me, and I find both very interesting and fascinating, but I also think creating things is more interesting from a I think from an entertainment perspective, watching someone make a game is probably more interesting than watching someone look for bugs and trying to hack. There is this aesthetic that people attempt to present as if a certain thing like what you see here is what hacking really is. It's a bunch of flashy visuals on your computer. flying all by at a fast clip like this. Fact is, hacking is very slow, methodical, patient, boring. Takes a very long time. And even doing it like for a paid penetration test or a paid app assessment, even that kind of stuff takes a long time. You know, like that's why those assessments are so expensive, is that you're paying for coverage. And so like if you have some big application that is totally secure, but you want to have some people, maybe you pay two different agencies, agency A and agency B. You pay each agency $200,000 each in order to go through your app and try to find bugs. What that actually end up paying for might be 2 penetration testers per company for 1 year each. And in practice, when I've worked for a real company doing paid web app assessments, I might have been given only 2 weeks. And I was paid a fraction of that. But I'm just giving these numbers out as an example. So, at the end of the day, a lot of the kind of stuff that you saw me doing tonight is a drop in the bucket and part of the process. But hopefully y'all learned something. My dog really wants me to go sit down with her and kind of turn myself off, and we're gonna watch some YouTube and go and hit the hay, have a little snacky poo, and go to bed. I hope everyone has a good night tonight and a good day tomorrow, and y'all see me again real soon. I promise. Until next time, everyone. Peace.